Welcome to the Talking with Tech podcast. My name's Chris Bouguet, and I'm joined today with Lynsey Phillips and Brie Norton. How's it going, guys?
We're good.
Great.
We're excited to be here.
Super happy to be here.
We are excited to have you. All right, so let's start off with our classic question, which is, who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm Lynsey Phillips. I am a AAC program director at a private pediatric outpatient clinic in Northwest Arkansas. There are some rural areas around here, and we serve quite a big area. We have ages birth to 21. We're actually adding a adult program right now that's in process. And I work mostly with AAC users. I spend one day a week doing implementation, evaluation, training, supporting families, and then working with outside providers or public providers like Brie. And I also like to do webinars, and I am a university professor at the University of Arkansas, where I teach the AAC class. And then most recently, Brie and I started a consulting business called Phillips and Norton Consulting, where we do AAC consultations. We support other providers with developing their own AAC programs, and then we do workshops as well.
Awesome. And Brie?
Yes, so I work for a public school in this area at Bentonville Schools, where I provide district-wide support for our AAC users. We're a rather large school district with about 20,000 students, with 11% of those being special education students. And we have over 200 AAC users. I have to throw that in there.
I have 199.
So I really have to rub it in.
And she thinks it's so impressive that she hit the 200 mark.
So I provide district-wide support for those students. So they have a speech pathologist in their building that serves their IEP minutes, and I'm that other layer of support for them to achieve authentic communication. So I spend a lot of my time training anybody that will listen, all those communication partners, coaching our teams, facilitating collaboration with outside providers and families, and then troubleshooting when we hit barriers. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, I also support assistive technology across our district. And I recently started providing LAMP trainings through the Center for AAC and PRC Saltillo. So that's been a fun little addition. And then I've enjoyed getting to travel throughout the state with Lynsey and present and help people build their programs. So it's been really cool.
Awesome. Brie, the day job, it sounds like you and I do the exact same thing, but You're in Arkansas and I'm in Virginia, right? And
yes.
You said Bentonville? Am I saying that right?
Bentonville. So we're in Northwest Arkansas. We're a corporate headquarters of Walmart.
That's what I was going to say. It's like, that's why I know it, right? I put the S in there, but
for sure. Yeah.
Fun fact, my wife's brother, so my brother-in-law and his wife used to live there. We never got to visit, but we often had conversations with them. Yeah, it's great. It's
a very beautiful place. And we actually, and we can talk about this later, but we actually have some really cool resources here that are kind of unique. Having these larger corporations, and they bring in a lot of interesting ideas and other professionals that we've been trying to partner with.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to hear all about that. But let's come back to that corporate partnership in the larger context of what we're going to talk about today, which is, it sounds like you have this thriving AAC coordinated effort happening. Tell us a little bit about that. And really, you're involving general ed in this too, right? It's not just in special ed programs. So let's talk about that.
Well, let's, to give you a little bit of context, Brie and I have been working together for over a decade now. I think we're aging ourselves, maybe. But over a decade now. And when we first started working together, I had recently started the AAC program at my clinic. And she had recently been put in her position as the AAC specialist at her district. They created the position, and she got forced.
I cried, but I'm glad now. So I got pushed into it, but
she was the perfect person for it. But we were kind of lone wolfing it, or just like in our little silos, and both just kind of like, there wasn't much happening here in Northwest Arkansas in terms of AAC. And so we started working together to
you're
figure it out.
You were private and Brie, you're public. So how did you meet each other? How did the partnership come together?
I knew her because I previously worked for Bentonville Schools
Gotcha.
as well. And
I would also, so when I was put into my role, I had no idea what I was doing. In graduate school, our AAC class was optional and I opted not to take it. So I took bilingual assessment instead. So I had no coursework in AAC. And that year that I was given kids on my caseload that so badly needed a voice, and I wasn't sure what I was doing. I was really trying to dive in and learn everything because they put me in the role because I had a passion for working with kids with complex communication needs, but I didn't yet have the knowledge base to know how to help them achieve authentic communication. So at that point, I was just reaching out to anybody that would talk to me and help me. So we started talking because we shared kids as well. A lot of the students in my district go to her private therapy clinic. So I was leaning on her for support along with device reps. And we thought the conversations we were going to have would be about like, what are you doing in therapy? What's working? But our conversation got dominated by what's not working. What are our barriers? And through that, we'd identify barriers and we'd start doing something to like overcome those barriers. And over the course of a 3-year period of that collaboration, we just made so much progress in helping our kids achieve authentic communication by putting a certain framework in place. So that's continued to build and evolve and has led to a lot of the work we do today.
Yeah, and so the framework has 4 components that typically starts with developing a collaborative relationship or this sense of like shared responsibility among everyone on the team, kind of moving away from that expert model. And then the second is training, like she mentioned, train everybody that will listen. Support, meaning like that ongoing tech support or, supporting in the classroom. And then the last piece we added was culture. So those are like the 4 components of our framework that we use in a lot of our webinars and workshops. And we realized that a lot of these things are happening across areas, including the general education setting.
And culture, I think, is where it really came to play when we were developing this model and figuring out how to have the biggest impact and help our kids really achieve this authentic communication. We realized it was beyond just what we do in our therapy session, and we needed to impact, the school culture. And now we're really working on the community culture. So as that continued to evolve and we identified barriers and would see what we had to do better, we really started to hone in on general education teachers, but more importantly, general education students.
Yes, because I feel like we waited too long to get to the peer model, the training. We're really, if we're not training peers to work with their peers that have disabilities, that they learn from each other, they learn through play, and we're really missing a huge piece that can help support our AAC users when we are not thinking about how the peers can help support them.
100%. So much of what you're saying resonates with the work that we're doing in our school district, building a culture in schools of learning language with AAC. We've emphasized that language piece. And then what does that look like across the schools? And you said one of the biggest players, you have this army of kids, you said the word, Brie, that want to do like something authentic with their time. Well, how about learning how to be a good friend, communication partner, what that means, what language looks like, right? And so those sorts of experiences help also because they're going to move on from elementary to middle to high, and those kids are in a bubble, right? Where they're going to be surrounded with the same kids for 12 plus years, but the teachers, it's just baked into how the system works. The teachers are going to change, right? So it's the more minutes you can put into helping with the peers makes so much sense to me. And Lynsey, I'll just say, no matter how soon or how late you started, you're there. I guarantee you there's people in their cars right now or on their treadmills listening going, oh, we don't learn anything in general ed yet, right? So you're well ahead of the game,
Yeah. One really cool thing that we've seen happen in addition to this, like having a bunch of little teachers, in the classroom, is that, we aren't hearing teachers say, well, everybody else wants to play on his device. He can't, it's a distraction. And that's just kind of gone by the wayside because it's not this novel thing that their peers aren't allowed to touch. It ends up being this just sort of overall normalization of different methods of communication and putting it in different forms, like smart boards or posters or, however you're including it in the classroom or in the clinic or even community, making it just this like all forms of communication are accepted. And it's, obviously this is little Johnny's device and we have to ask permission before we touch it, but it's not this like taboo thing that, that
I don't know what to do.
And they want to touch it so bad.
Yeah.
They want to touch it so bad. And so that has kind of gone by the wayside as far as that, concern about it being a distraction in the classroom.
It's been really cool because I think through evolving how we work with teachers and now students, I finally feel like we have like a really good formula to how we make it happen, which like I say that now and it's going to completely continue to evolve and get better. But like I was listening to a podcast that you did, and you were talking about going to the classroom and just the impact on those kids and just how it just really inspires you, and that it didn't just make your day, it made your month. And when I go in and talk to these students and get to teach them about the diverse communication methods, and I get to hear what they have to say, it's the most powerful thing. So figuring out a way to get welcomed in by gen ed teachers, like that took a little while. Like they are so busy. They have so many demands. They're like, how am I going to do this? Like I finally feel like I've overcome that, where they're welcoming me in and their counterparts are jealous that I'm going to do this in their classroom and not yet scheduled in the other classroom teachers. So it's been cool to see grow. I started, like you said, with elementary school, prioritizing elementary school classrooms, and specifically prioritizing, we've already trained our special education teachers, our speech paths, our OTs, PTs, paraprofessionals. They're all well-versed in AAC. But with general education teachers, we started with the teachers first in elementary school that specifically had a student assigned to them with an AAC device that would go into that classroom. And my first year, I was going to the school to do the training, but that took a lot of time. So now when I'm working with teachers, I'm typically jumping on a Google Meet or a Zoom, and I'm using a computer emulator to train them on the system the child is using. Because for me and my busyness, that cuts some time, some travel time. But, and that's what I was doing initially. But teachers then would share with me, and during that training, we were talking about the specific vocabulary system the child was using, why they were using AAC, and a couple strategies. And Lynsey and I call it like the 3 key jobs to supporting an AAC user. And we were sharing that with them. But then later they wanted me to come back and actually show it. And that's how it's continued to evolve.
Gotcha. So are those the components of the formula, the ingredients to the soup that you're making? Is that it?
Yeah. So step one, I would say for me is I find out who the teacher is for that child. Once we have identified an AAC user or want to begin and try AAC with a student, I've already trained the special education team and the parent. That's already been done. I ask for who that general education teacher is. And I ask for 30 minutes of their time to talk to them a little bit about alternative communication and that specific student. So we jump on that Google Meet and I talk to them about why that student's using AAC. Because in the beginning, that was kind of an assumption I made that people understood, but they don't. If the child's not solely non-speaking and they need it as a backup system or to make language learning more concrete, communication partners don't always see its value. So we talk about that first for them to understand why this is an important tool. Then we train on the vocabulary during this 30 minutes. We talk about what vocabulary system they're using and why it's organized the way it is. We look at how to navigate it and how to word find. I always show them that. And then we jump into the 3 ways that we want them to support that AAC user, with number 1 being, you see me, you see my AAC. So bring it, have it in class, have it next to them, hold those special education teachers accountable to send it, like put a visual on your door, whatever you need to do. Then job number 2, we talk briefly about the importance of modeling, and I show them that and modeling without expectation. And then job number 3, we talk about casting back or recasting. Like, I understand when you're teaching 25 kids, you're going to have to honor this. And we always do. We honor the child's love language. But when you notice that that gesture or that sign or that facial expression or that script won't work for everybody else, take a minute and pause when you can and cast it back and show them how to say it on their device. So that's the teacher training. And then I was setting them free and they weren't ready to be set free. That's what I learned later on as it evolved. They needed me to say, let's schedule a follow-up where I show this to your students.
Yeah. And I think another key piece is connecting to other providers, like in the private section. So we have obviously we get consent to share about students between us. And we connect via email, or sometimes we'll jump on a Zoom or a Google Meet as well. And initially, and this is where I've seen a lot of growth. Initially, it was like trying to get into Fort Knox. Like, nobody wanted to talk to me, or, there was just this like inability to talk to other providers. And there was just this like, I don't know, barrier around it. And I feel like a lot of it is around, fear-based. I don't know what they're going to think. I don't know if they're going to disagree with me. And so one thing that we have learned is just having this kind of open willingness to collaborate and, be wrong sometimes, or ask questions rather than, jumping to judgment, or, feeling like, oh, well, this teacher doesn't want to do it because, they just don't care about it. And instead coming at it from a place of compassion and understanding, oh, these are all the things they have on their plate. And it's not that they don't want to do it. They might need more support with it, or asking, what is the barrier here? And really trying to understand what the challenge is, and then working together to try to support one another.
100%. Wow. Okay. So, and you've seen over the years that this has started to gel, right? Like you said, you have 200 AAC users. And then when you were saying the teachers, and both of you working from the aspect of teachers, and Lynsey, would it be fair that you're working more with speech therapists, or are you working with the teachers as well?
Both. Yeah.
I think like a whole team.
Yeah, I feel like it depends on often the complexity involved. So I have a lot of patients that have really significant physical disabilities, that we're working on, mounting the device on the chair, and, they're having a surgery and then they need to get a new wheelchair, and, seizure involvement and things like that. And in the cases that are really, really complex, more team members seem to be on a regular basis communicating. And then, kids that are picking up on it and, doing really well in the classroom, there might not be as frequent communication. And also I feel like it depends on the team itself. Over the years, we've worked with, the first time you work with a team, you're doing, the see me, see my AAC. We're working on having this student bring the device places and make sure it's charged. Like, that's where we're starting. And then once you've worked with this team for 5 years, 10 years, really you're just troubleshooting when things go awry, or when there's a specific issue or a behavior that's popped up, or, the device is not working right. And so I think it really is dependent on the student themselves, the team, or just the overall goals that you're working on.
When we shifted from that expert model to that sense of shared responsibility, we started having some difficult conversations with each other. Like, why are we just talking to the speech path? Like, why aren't we talking to the parent? Why aren't we talking to the bus driver? Why aren't we holding that gen ed teacher accountable, and like kids learn from kids. So these kids should learn how to use this communication device. So we realized that that sense of shared responsibility meant like we wanted to know every person that was in that child's life and hold them accountable for helping this child achieve authentic communication. It was no longer going to be like a professional thing, an expert thing. We were going to talk to, and we joke that we talk to anybody that will listen. And if we can get welcomed in, like we're ready to teach you about it. Like we're ready for it.
I hear sometimes from when we do our workshops that it feels like it's too much to do that. Like, when am I going to have the time? I need to be working on the student's goals. My treatment plan says, or the IEP goal says, I need to be working on, producing 3-word utterances, or I need to, request X number of items or whatever. And they're like, I don't have time to talk to the teacher. But we are firm believers that spending time on that collaborative conversation and making sure you understand the vocabulary that's needed in various environments, the barriers that are happening in various environments are actually working on those goals.
Exactly. They're not separate things. They're overlapping things. Yeah,
exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to tell you a quick story, and then I want to see if this resonates with the work that you're doing. Okay. So about 2 weeks ago, I go out to a first grade classroom, general ed first grade classroom, where there is one AAC user in that classroom. The teacher, the general ed teacher, sitting in front of the interactive whiteboard. There is, in this case, it was Lamp Words for Life. So there's a giant poster underneath the interactive whiteboard while she's doing her reading lesson for the first graders. So they're all sitting on the floor. She's sitting on a chair, reading lesson. She's modeling certain words on the core board behind her. Right. The student has has Lamp Words for Life, but she also has an iPad to model on. But you can picture this, like she's sitting in a chair with her laptop that's attached to the interactive whiteboard, and she's modeling, right? She's juggling 3 things. She's got the board, the computer, and the core board. And then after this, 15-minute whole group lesson, she goes off to a reading group where she knew I was there and why I was there. So I was observing the student who was using the AAC device. So now we're at a kidney table with 4 kids, and she's got her modeling device, but the other kids who are not the AAC users are also using the AAC. And so they read this, little story together, and it's first grade. So she's like, all right, the word we're looking for is look. And she's like, afterwards we decompressed for a little bit. She's like, did you see what those other kids did? They had never spelled the word look before. They went over to the keyboard on the Lamp Words for Life and they typed in LLOK, and then they found where the word was, and they've never done that before. And now they know look because they learned it through the AAC, which only happened because there was an AAC user in that room. And she has someone who's embraced this can just be a teaching tool for everyone. So does that story resonate with you? And are you seeing things like that in your neck of the woods?
100%. That's what I'm trying to create. Now, I have some teachers that are rock stars like that even after I just did that initial training, took what I taught them and went and made that happen. But I have other teachers that when I talk to them about the AAC system and all that, they're like, oh, this is too complex. This is hard.
Always.
And that's when I say, give me your kindergartners for 40 minutes. Let me show you how they take off on this. And let me show you how this is what you're already teaching. It's just going to benefit all of them. So I've been going into those classrooms to try to build that for these teachers that can envision what you're just talking about and show them how it could happen. So I've been getting to go in for about 40 minutes to these teachers and do that type of lesson. We use those emulators you're discussing. So if a child is using an AAC device, we provide that general education teacher an emulator, so the mirror software that they can have on their computer and can project to their smartboard or their television. We don't have enough iPads in the district to get them the iPad and the communication software, but the way we're doing it is free.
Yes.
So every gen ed teacher can have it, and it's huge, so everybody can see it. And the device companies, most of them allow for teachers to have voice output for life. So they can extend their voice output and make that device talk. So that's been really cool. So we get teachers that. And when I go in and do the lesson to show them how they can incorporate this, one way we've been doing that is that we've been, first I'll go in and I'll talk with a talker, and the kids are all like, wow, what's going on here? Like, she doesn't use her voice. Yeah. And then I say, hey, I have a talker, but I also use my voice. We all communicate so differently. What do you know about diverse communication? And they'll talk about sign, and they'll talk about all the languages they know. And it's really cool to hear.
Start counting in Spanish.
Yeah, they start saying adios and all different languages. Or they're proud of their classmate who speaks a different language. And then I share that some people use communication devices, and we read the most beautiful book. I don't know. It's incredible. I've been reading it K through 4, and it's called A Day with No Words.
Okay.
Have you read it?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Oh my gosh. You have to check it out. It's by
Tiffany Hammond.
And
it's just a beautiful story.
She is a mom of 2 little boys with autism, and she also has a diagnosis of autism herself. So she pulled from her personal journey and wrote this book about a little boy who does not use spoken speech, and he uses an AAC device, and it follows him throughout the day, and it focuses on diversity and uniqueness, and also some barriers that might be experienced, and allows you to have a really good conversation about kindness. And within the book, it also highlights that just because someone might not speak, they understand everything you say. And to hear these students just listen to that and take that in and then react to that leads to some wonderful conversation. And while I'm reading the book, I'm modeling words that he uses on his talker during the book on the device, on the emulator, so the teacher can kind of see what you were discussing, how that modeling while teaching looks like. So that's been really neat. And then after that, similar to what you said, we get the classroom. I'm prepared with a poster for the classroom, and the kids are so excited to hang it, along with core boards for each of them, so that they can learn how to start communicating with an AAC device. And I get those from my device reps. I always hit them up at the beginning of the year for free posters, and my district's not printing them for me. So I hit up my different device reps, and I have a big stack of them that I hand out. And from there, then the kids get to use the classroom talker. Awesome. And I know I've heard you talk about how you do a lot of you'll practice core words with them and stuff, and show them how to find different words and discuss the frequency of the words. We've been embracing it similarly. So I model for the teachers how they could do core word of the week, which would then align with a word they're already teaching. It's already on the kids' spelling list, like the word look you mentioned, or it's a heart word or a tricky word they're learning to read. So let's learn how to say it in the device. But more recently, I've also encouraged them into their morning meeting to start getting comfortable using the device. More the teachers than the kids. The kids are already comfortable doing something we call a silly question of the week. So that's been really fun. So during this model lesson, I show them that. Everybody gets the opportunity to come up to the board one time and answer a silly question using the talker. And the teacher sees it. They see how much the kids thrive and how quickly they learn past and all the device. And then they're ready to do it. And they also see that supportive literacy that you were discussing. So awesome. It's been really fun.
All of that, Brie, and I bet a bunch of kids jump over to the numbers and do 6, 7.
Oh my goodness. I was in a kindergarten class the other day, and I could not count how many times they said 6, 7.
All right. So you're building this culture in the schools, right? But then what about beyond that? Like the community beyond, you had mentioned community groups in your email to me. What's going on beyond that?
So when we we're working through this expansion of culture in the school building and at my clinic, we were like, okay, this is great. What about the rest of the world, right? We started with, being in our silos, just me and her, and then just the student, and now we're doing the school, and then okay, but we're still not seeing devices out at restaurants and things like that. And so we started a group called AAC Cares. And it's a community group that is for augmentative alternative communication users, their friends, their families. And we host events so that they can get connected to one another and to community spaces.
So what does that look like? Like, that's like in-person events, and how often, and how do you get involved?
Yeah, so it actually started in March 2020.
Dr. Musselwhite actually came to Bentonville and did a presentation on AAC for our school district and our community. And she talked about her group out and about and had the benefits of it. And we heard it, we were inspired, and we were like, but how do we do this? So we went on Teachers Pay Teachers and downloaded her guide on how to get it started. So we initially started with her framework because we didn't really know what we were doing and we didn't really have a clear vision. And then we had our first event, March 2020.
Yeah, I think it was like the 12th or so, a week before everything. Of course, community events didn't happen for a while. And then the world opened back up and we, started doing things back in the schools, back in the clinic. And I was hearing from families that I was working with that they were ready to start. They were probably some of the most isolated during COVID, because of medical complications and things like that. And they were like, we need our community back. And because we have a pretty tight knit special needs community here in Northwest Arkansas. And they just were like, how do we fix this? How do we get our community back up and running? We feel so disconnected. And so Brie and I just felt this we need to get this back started again. And so we sort of reimagined the mission of it, really focused on communication and the community. And we developed our leadership team. And we wanted it to include not just us speech therapists, but we wanted it to also include private providers from other locations, parents. We also have university staff, and then AAC users as well that are on our leadership team to help us develop events. And so we get together, and usually it takes us about 6 months to plan. It's all volunteer based. So, we do it, we meet in the afternoon on Friday after our brains are all fried, or, in the evenings to get the planning up and running. And then we've really worked hard to reach out to community spaces to develop those partnerships. So far, we've had 3 events. One that was in a accessible park. We actually have the largest accessible park in Arkansas right here in our backyard. And then the other 2 have been at Crystal Bridges Museum of Modern Art, which is a pretty big museum here in Northwest Arkansas.
Building the partnerships probably was the biggest challenge, or we found the most intimidating to begin with, because when we decided to start the community group, we kind of went back and forth if we were going to make it an official nonprofit and go down that route. Because if we did go down that route, more people would be willing to host events and things like that because it's a tax write-off. But we didn't want to go down that route. We kind of wanted it just to be fun. And our goal when we talked about what we wanted to do was host 2 events a year that were completely free and open to everyone. So we decided not to pursue that. So we weren't sure if people would respond to us and offer us their space. But we started looking at places in our community that aligned with our mission. What places we're talking about accessibility, what places we're talking about true inclusion and everybody being welcome, and let's make it happen. We align on our visions. Let's make it happen. So when we sent our email to Crystal Bridges, we were like, oh, are they going to even respond?
I know.
They were more pumped than us to have an initial meeting and learn about what we had to offer, because we made it clear that they could offer us something, but we knew we could offer them something as well.
Yeah. So what I think has been really cool is that I think so many of these spaces, they want to be accessible. They want to have events that include, individuals that we're supporting, but they don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And our families are not utilizing these spaces because they're not accessible. And so their voices aren't there to be saying, this is what we need. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like a lot of these spaces have just been waiting for someone to show up and say, hey, let's do this. Mm-hmm. Not sure what it's going to look like, but here are the things that we need. And so when we do our planning, we focus mostly on, three things. Communication. We are always coming back to our mission. Like, how does this event foster alternative communication, different methods of communication? We don't want it to be a therapy session, right? We're not like, prompting kids to say things or, that sort of thing, but providing core boards, putting out different things that we can use to communicate, providing topics, that sort of thing. And so keeping the focus there, and then focusing on connecting. So parents to parents, kids meeting kids, connections within the partnerships that we're talking about within the community. And then last but not least, the accessibility piece. So how many wheelchairs can fit in this space?
Can we navigate this terrain with a wheelchair?
Yeah. What kind of parking is available? Do you have a space that we can use for sensory if a sensory regulation is,
and elopement has been fun to deal with as well.
Yes.
Like we're going to have kids that are elopement risk. So how are we going to make it so these families feel welcome and they can come to this event and their child will be safe?
Yeah, like at Crystal Bridges, they have this beautiful like lake area with a fountain and all the things, and some of our autistic kids are just like headed straight for it. They are like, let me at it. And so we've had to, work with Crystal Bridges and have volunteers set up to make that a safe space where families feel like, I can be here and do this. And there's people here that get it and they're willing to support me and they want us here.
Oh, that sounds great. There's a lot of pre-planning that goes to make sure the event goes off without a hitch. But then once you've done that, you've done it. So now that people know how to make it even better next time, right? And then you have stuff like, we took pictures during the event, so now we can pre-plan next time and pre-teach next time. Hey, you're going to see this thing. We keep our hands to ourselves. We don't touch these things because they might break, right? Like you can do stories and songs and things like that to teach the expectation for next time. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right.
So there's a therapeutic benefit. The event itself, we're not wanting to feel like a therapy session, but you can absolutely utilize it before and after for, like you said, pre-teaching vocabulary or, social story types of things to prepare for the event.
Yeah. Like you mentioned the key word there. It's just supposed to be fun. Right. Just go and have fun and be together. Right. And if you learn some stuff, great. But that's not really the aim of it. It's just to be together in a space and enjoy that time together. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Now, I would imagine that if kids go to an art museum, Crystal Bridges is an art museum, then they might be inspired to make some art. So what comes next? Is there accessible?
We're making art and it's so fun.
What was really important to me was that we're doing real art, right? We're not doing crafts and the types of like kindergarten type crafts. Not that those aren't fun. I'm not saying they're not fun. I love to do crafts, but I wanted them to be experiencing things that everyone else at the museum is experiencing, right? And so we meet with their
youth family program
to learn about, okay, what are the exhibits that are coming during this time? Tell us about the artist. And, we're not artists. And so help us design an activity, or we usually do 2 activities that piggyback off of that are reflective of the type of art that's being presented at this exhibit. So
while supporting the most independence of the child. So like one of the art exhibits that we supported, the artist that was being exhibited at that time was doing graffiti art. So we now came to this meeting and saw his graffiti art, and we're like, how are we going to make this accessible for all of our students? Ones that might have sensory differences, ones that might have complex bodies. Like now we want everybody to be able to make their own graffiti art. We are not artists, but we're so grateful that one of the people on our team, Casey, is a graphic designer and an AAC user, and she has just the mind for art. So she sits on our meetings too. She's on our leadership team and kind of brainstorms, how can we make this like an accessible activity? So the graffiti art was so fun. Crystal Bridges got canvases for all the kids, and we adapted switch toys that we then would dip in paint for them. They'd pick their color. We dip in
like
paint.
Little animals. There was like a pig and a giraffe and a cat.
And they would walk across the art for the child and all different colors and make them. And the frog walked different than the giraffe. So it was different patterns and everything like that. And the child independently, even if they had a complex body, was able to make their own artwork without any kind of like hand under hand assist or anything like that. It was their own piece of art. And even the kids, we had other types. We had paint and everything like that. So they could use a more traditional paintbrush or a slightly modified paintbrush, but nobody wanted to do that.
No.
Everybody
Not
wanted
even the
to
siblings
paint with a walking giraffe.
Of course.
Another thing that I thought was really cool about the graffiti art was we prioritized being able to sign their art.
Oh yeah.
Just like how,
everybody can.
We make that really important in literacy, right? Like you're an author. Same thing here. You're an artist. We need to make sure you sign it. And so providing different ways that they could sign their art, with stamps or stickers or, modified writing utensils. And so what I think is really cool about working with Crystal Bridges has been their interest in learning about the different tools. And we wanted to normally, I guess, when they have events like this, normally the group gets to keep the items afterwards. And we were like, no, put them in your closet. We want you to have it, use it. Like this needs to be something that you have. And they were like, oh, that's so cool. And so they have been, utilizing them here and there and at their other activities.
Yeah, but they didn't know that you could do that with switches. They hadn't obviously heard of a power link or anything like that. So to be able to get that switch activated scissors, they thought was the coolest thing ever. We have the kids dry their art with a blow dryer connected to that power link. Like they've learned so much. So this has been such a great relationship for all of us. To grow and collaborate and just benefit the community. So it's been really neat.
Our other event was really cool too, Chris. She mentioned Casey is a graphic designer, and she designed icons to create a core board. And then we blew them up. What was it, like maybe a 3x3 size cardstock, and each person got to pick a core word and then do spin art on it, like put it in an adapted spin art machine, whatever they're called. And then we made a collaborative core word. And so after you painted it, it went up on a huge canvas on the wall, and all of the different core words were together that each person contributed to this collaborative art piece. And so I love that it feels like real creative, artistic experience at a museum.
Yeah, totally. And part of that too, like you said, is kids who don't need to use the switches love using the switches.
Yeah, that reverse inclusion.
It's the best. It's the best. Yeah.
It's fun.
I want to provide all the traditional stuff, and it just like sat in the little bin off to the side, and like sad little pencils.
And we push it out to our, like, all the different local school districts and the therapy clinics, ABA clinics, we parent groups, we advertise there and welcome everybody. We have, as it's gotten bigger, we've asked for an RSVP. But what happens is at the museum space and even at the park, people that didn't know about the event trickle in, and all of a sudden they have all these questions about, like, how are you doing that with that spin art, or what are they using? Like, why do you have these things?
What's this poster?
The conversation and awareness it brings is so powerful. And then everybody has a story. They'll be like, oh, I have to tell my sister about this. My niece could use an activity like this. So it's just been so powerful to see what an impact it's having. We actually have people from across the state now come to the events, and some neighboring states. So when we see people drove 3 hours to bring their kids, we're so excited, but we're also like, wow, this is such a need.
Yeah, it's simultaneously exciting that we're able to provide this, and also just like frustrating that, like, we've got to do this. It's, I guess, invigorating too, that, like, yes, let's keep going forward. Let's keep going forward. We've now set up a Facebook group where we can post different activities or events, not necessarily just what we're doing, and then share core boards that we've created for like Autism Involves Me. Another local nonprofit had a fireworks event. And so we created a core board to use at that event and posted it on our Facebook. And then Brie didn't want to start an email list. She was like,
she has to get that in. Like, she has to.
And I was like, we need an email list, Brie. And it's like insanely long. And so we use that to communicate with families and providers as well, to share about our events and things we're working on.
If Rachel were here right now, she'd be championing the email list. She's like, she's always telling me, you need email list, Chris. And it paid off, right? Because it helps to advertise.
You don't have an email list?
I do. I have, mostly because Rachel pushed me to do it, which is good advice.
Okay, so this argument is normal.
Totally. Well, and the question is, how often do you use it, right? Rachel uses it all the time. I have to get better at using it. But the point is, it's like Universal Design for Learning. It's a multimodal thing, right? To get the word out is you have to have email, and you have to have a Facebook group, and you are out advertising on a podcast, right? And you got multiple modes of expression to get the word out. Is that fair?
Right.
Yeah. And our first goal was to get that following, but now we're also looking at, like, how can we continue to build it? Like peer-to-peer mentors, we'd love to start that within the program. And then also finding a way to get kids in our community who don't have access to AAC, or might not be able to get access because of their funding. How can we kind of grow the group so we can provide maybe a program where we can get kids access to AAC that might not have it otherwise? So.
And we have other people from, and this is exciting to me, we have people from other places in the state, Jonesboro, which is 5-ish hours from here, contacting us saying, how do we do what you're doing?
Yeah.
And so that's really exciting that need can potentially be met through this initiative that we're working on here in Northwest Arkansas.
Going back to the switches for a second. So something you put in your email to me was about the switched chapter. What is that?
That's our newest shenanigans. We are always up to shenanigans. That's our newest.
We get something going and we're like, we want more.
For sure.
So we had mentioned how we're in such a unique place in the country. Northwest Arkansas, like we had said, you have so many different big vendors. So we have access to tons of different companies, and there's so many resources here. And as we look around, there's so many resources for most kids. But when we look at our kids with complex bodies and needs, we still see so many limitations. So we had actually gone to ATIA and we went to a workshop. I think it might have been called Toyland or something like that.
It was.
And it was highlighting how to start a program to adapt toys and have like an event.
This has been my dream forever.
And Lynsey was like, we need to go back and do this right now.
I love
Yes.
accessible play. Play is so important for development, and our individuals that have limited mobility or significant physical impairments just don't have the access to it. And it's difficult, and providers don't know what to do. And I was like, Brie, we're doing this like tomorrow because this needs to happen. And then Brie was like, with what money and with what time? And like, what do you mean? And realistically, like us just doing it, having this event where we give away toys and adapt them all, it's just like there's not the manpower for it. And we
wanted to do it well. We didn't want to just like, when we do things, we're like, we want to do it well. So we needed to take a deep breath. And I was like, Lynsey, we got to take a deep breath. But we put it out there that we were going to make it happen eventually. And we actually met someone through just our partnerships, a device representative at the time and fellow speech path that said, I have connections with Switched Adapted Toys, and their goal is to make play possible for all children. And their mission is to provide resources, how-to video, and adapted toys to empower children of all abilities to play. And anybody can start a chapter and they will help you. Like, they have the framework. So like, do you want to do it? If you want to do it, let's go. And at that point, we're like, okay, if we can have a guidebook and we can have the support of someone who's already done it, like, let's look into it. So at that point, we started reaching out to find out about starting our own Switch chapter.
I think it was initially established in 2018.
Switch.
Switch itself, and by a group of professionals, Eric and Dana Cole and Rachel Hughes. And they have tons of chapters.
There's like over 20 chapters worldwide.
Even some worldwide chapters. And so it was just kind of, like she said, helpful to know that we could be supported by people who have already walked this road. But we still were like, okay,
manpower.
And this is where it gets really, like, I don't know, heartwarming, maybe. So Brie and I have a kiddo. She's 14 now, and she is an AAC user, and she's incredible. I love her so much. But her older sister, her name's Kayla, is a occupational therapy student at the University of Arkansas Medical Sciences, and is working on her capstone project. And she came to us and was like, I want to work on adaptive play and I need a mentor. Would you guys be willing to help with this? And we were like, oh,
let's go.
Lynsey's dream is coming true. But it's just so cool to me because, having a sibling come to us after, like I remember her when she was the younger sibling and I let her come back and jump on the trampoline while I was swinging with her sister, working on, core words when she was 3 and eloping. Right. And so now this, she's a teenager now and her sister's in college and kind of been inspired to join the field. And so we're now getting to do this really cool project with her
together. So we have more manpower, and then we plan on tapping into the university for volunteers, fellow therapists, and then students in my district that are part of a program called Ignite that have access to 3D printing materials and things like that. So we're just bringing the community in to make this happen.
And we have some parents at your school district that work for some of the vendors that we're talking about.
We figured out the manpower part, but then it's like, how do you have the money and the resources to make this happen? So once again, just those partnerships we've been forming over the years, we have, we identified a couple parents that work for some toy companies, and we reached out to them and kind of once again identified a need in our community and said, you have this mission statement that on your website, like, are you ready to jump in and make it happen here in Northwest Arkansas? And everybody's been so receptive. And so we're looking at toy companies to partner with. We are also looking at other grants to get some funds, and our goal is to host an event next October where we have are able to offer like 50 adapted toys to 50 families and the switches at no cost just before the holidays, and learn how to make the event happen and learn all the details and then grow it from there.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Really exciting. I feel like we just like run around knocking down doors, and it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
And look how it's paying off. Lynsey, do you do anything with your students? You said you teach at the university level. Are they involved?
Yes, actually. I just did this last semester. I teach the AAC graduate level course, and we did an interprofessional class with OT and speech grad students on a accessible play, where we did battery interrupters, and then they had to work together to create goals that included OT and speech perspectives, and they had to problem solve with, okay, how would you incorporate, sensory needs and fine motor needs with the speech goals? And that was really fun to see them working together. And I'm really excited about the, starting this as part of pre-service training. I don't know about you, Brie, but when I was in college, I didn't have the opportunity to work with other disciplines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so this like concept of collaboration was like thrown around, but there was never actual opportunities to practice it. And so that lab is really cool. And actually Kayla was in that lab, the student that we're working on the switched program with. And so, yeah, we're going to be utilizing those students to help us with the switched event that we have planned,
and adapting the toys.
Yeah, working with us to get it up and running.
Awesome. All right. Well, you know that I like to end the episodes with and the interviews with some sort of thought to the future. So what's something that's tickling your curiosity bone, that you want to do next? I mean, clearly you're doing a lot and keeping it going and expanding, but just what's got you curious? What's got you, what's lighting your fire recently?
I have been thinking recently, and this, I don't know how outwardly I've said this to Brie, but our framework, like I mentioned earlier, it has 4 components, and I'm wondering if we might have an additional component that we need to add. Just with all this work, thinking about like framing it where it's the culture piece is clear, that it's like beyond the building. Mm-hmm. And it has a community piece to it. So I don't know. That's exciting to me. And Switched is still our new venture. So that's really exciting to me as well.
Yeah. And for me, I think I'm excited about Switched. But I also I see over the past 9 years building the AAC program in the Benham Middle schools, because when I was pulled into the program, nothing was there. I was pulled in, like I said, I cried because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. It was a little overwhelming. But over the past 9 years, I built our AAC program, and it's working, and it's amazing. Mm-hmm. When I started, there were 17 kids with an identified need for AAC or had a device and nobody knew how to use it. And now we have over 200 kids we support with alternative communication that are thriving. And it's been great to see what we've done in our district. But there's such a need in the state of Arkansas for other districts to be doing the same thing and to know how to do it. And then beyond Arkansas as well, as I get to travel and present the LAMP training, like I hear of other districts that just aren't sure how to make it happen and how to build that program and how to overcome those barriers that like we've figured it out. So I'm excited to see how being able to share our story and teach others how to build that program, whether it's in a clinic or in a school, how that's going to manifest itself and happen.
Yeah, Brie and I have been doing workshops and webinars for years now, and we just formalized our consulting business this last summer, right?
Summer, yeah. It all blends together.
And so last summer we did 4 2-day workshops at those more rural places that don't have the support that we've kind of fostered here in Northwest Arkansas.
Or know about the resources.
Yes.
Resources that are there for you to access AT in every state, you know?
Yeah. And so I do think it's really exciting to think about this, larger, more statewide kind of impact that I think our PNC consulting can kind of lead us down.
It's going to be fun to see it happen.
So, yeah.
Totally. We say in our trainings, we steal from Hamilton. It's not a moment, it's a movement. And you are leading the movement in Arkansas, right? And beyond, now that people listening to this. So, all right. Well, thank you for your time here today on the podcast and for all the work you're doing. How do people, if they wanted to learn more about AAC Cares or any of your work, we'll make sure we have it on the website, but give it a shout out now. What's the best way for people to learn more?
I feel like every platform has its own thing.
I know. Right. So you can find us at our prospective employers. Like my full daytime job is children's therapy team. And then she works at Bentonville schools.
If you're interested in starting your own Switch chapter, you want to learn more about Switched or toy adoption, it's switchedtoys.org that you can check out. And if you align with their mission, they're going to support you in getting a program up and running. So that's really great. And then AAC Cares, we have a Facebook group where we share information. So that's probably the best way to.
And then shameless plug for our consulting business. That's pncconsulting.com.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then they can sign up for the newsletter to get on your email list, right?
That's right.
Thanks to Lynsey.
That's right. You're welcome. Yep. I will email you back. Don't worry.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for all of this time and for all the work you're doing and for sharing it with everybody, because I think a lot of people can learn from the work you're doing and say, hey, well, if they're doing it there, we can do it here too. And that's how the movement grows. So thank you.
I hope so. Thank you, Chris. I feel likewise. All the work you've been doing, I've definitely learned from over the years and really appreciate all of that you guys are doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All right. See you later. Thanks.
Thanks.